Hello and welcome to another edition of As Entrepreneurs. Today we have Nicole.
Hello.
And we have Claire Taylor from Simply VAT.
Hello everybody.
And what we're talking about is, as you can see, is Simply VAT or is it? And it's one of those things that I realised after our last training, that it's something that people want to brush under the carpet and pretend it's never happened, it's not going to happen to them, and they can just carry on as they always have, because how is anyone going to find them? There's millions of us. But that's not really true, is it, Claire?
I'm afraid not. Selling online, when you're selling goods online into Europe, you're governed by what's called the distance selling rules, and these rules apply to you even if you're selling from your bedroom on Amazon or eBay. What these rules stipulate that when you sell abroad, your goods abroad, and you sell over a certain amount in the European countries, there are two bands of thresholds, 35,000 euros and 100,000 euros. Most countries are at 35,000 euros, whereas France, Germany, Luxembourg and Holland are at 100,000 euros. But you can sell to that amount, either charging UK VAT if you're VAT registered, or not charging VAT at all if you're not VAT registered. But as soon as you're going to hit that threshold, say in France, Germany, Czech Republic, wherever, you have to VAT register there and start accounting for the VAT in France or Germany or in maybe multi-countries.
Okay, so if I'm just starting out and I'm selling a few bits and pieces, when should I think about this? Because it's one of those things that, like I was saying, it just doesn't even factor in, because I'm only making a little bit of money at the moment. I'm hoping to make a lot of money, but what should I be looking out for? At what point do you think I should think, yes, I need to be thinking about VAT?
I hate to say it, I think you need to think about it right from the word go.
Part of planning, isn't it?
Yeah. That was a big sigh, Tally. It's one of those things that will come and bite you on the proverbial if you don't take it into account. There is a couple of reasons to think about it up front. There's obviously, if you're thinking about pricing what you're selling, you might start to sell a little bit and then go towards saying reaching the UK threshold of £82,000. But your pricing might have been based on your products selling without the 20% VAT on them. And as soon as you're going to have to VAT register in the UK, adding that 20% to your prices might just push you out the market. You won't be competitive anymore.
Never have thought of that.
But of course you have to also allow for the margins to be bigger as well on that.
Yeah, exactly. What I would say, if you're sourcing products from the word go, add the extra 20% in from the word go and then see what margins are left and see if it's still a viable business. So from that point of view, always think about it, because the other thing that happens there is people have become successful. They, a good income is £80,000 a year, £82,000.
We're talking net here.
But once you might have to VAT register and you lose your competitiveness, are you going to sit below that £82,000? So why have your own kind of entrepreneurial business if you're going to stifle yourself from becoming really successful?
One of the things that I've seen online that people are saying is, but I thought Amazon dealt with all of that. It's not me. I've signed up to do this stuff with Amazon. Don't they deal with the VAT? Do I? Or
in other words,
like
a lot of people say that to me as well. They say, do the fees that we're paying Amazon, doesn't that incorporate the taxations?
No, it's you as the seller. It doesn't matter if you're a sole trader, if you're a business, if you're a registered business, if you're VAT registered.
And what about individual seller? Because some people have actually approached me on that as well, because some people are an individual seller, have a professional account. An individual, as I understand it, is when you're actually bringing in something like a charity, or Amazon actually word it, if you're not going to sell to make a profit, which to me, I don't understand that one at all. Do you understand that? What they may mean on that one?
No. The short answer.
No, it's a very, that is the wording on the site, I swear.
You know, they can have that wording, but you as the individual then have to have the argument with the taxman about what was deemed as profit. And if you're selling a certain amount, if you're, you know, they are going to start to become interested.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter about Amazon's wording, it's the law of the land that dictates.
Okay, thanks for clearing that one.
I think it's also important to hear some of the stories that Claire has. I know it's, you know, it's going to be quite scary, but I think you need to hear some of these people that come to you when it's too late. And I know you've got some amazing stories of which are quite scary, but I think it needs to go out there. People need to know what can happen if you don't set up and for VAT.
What form should people be looking for then from the offset? What is the actual form they have to fill out from HMRC?
Well, to start with, you have to decide what you want to be. Are you going to be an individual? Are you a sole trader? Are you going to be a limited company?
Yes, that's what I meant. Are there different forms that would have to be filled out for each? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're a limited company, you have to register yourself in Companies House. If you're a sole trader, you have to register with HMRC for self-assessment. Yep. And as an individual, again, just keep an eye on the VAT laws and the, you know, to see how they're going to impact you. Have the conversations with HMRC or your accountant.
Okay.
Just how it's all going to impact
Another
on you.
question I get often asked is, look, I want to go to a trade show and I want to buy a whole lot of product from one vendor. I have to buy a minimum of, let's say, 500 units. That's going to cost a lot of money. So who would be responsible for the VAT? I assume if you're a sole proprietor, the rate would be still the same as what it would be for being a company trade. In other words, for a professional company.
Yeah, even if you're a sole proprietor or a company, it depends about whether you're VAT registered or not.
Okay.
So if you're not VAT registered, you're going to just have to take that hit on the 20% and pay it to the supplier that you bought the goods from. If you are VAT registered, and some people do make the decision to VAT register voluntarily for a number of reasons, and getting the money back on purchases is a good reason to be VAT registered.
Okay.
You can put the VAT on those purchases through your VAT return and offset them against any sales you make.
Okay.
But you have to charge VAT on your sales once you're VAT registered.
Okay. 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 It's just that in the States, you see, they have what's called the reseller's license. So often, it's another question I'm often asked, if I was to go to an American wholesaler and I don't have a reseller's license, I've been often told that I have to present some form of registration papers. So I assume they're talking about the papers from Companies House, not necessarily from HMRC, or am I incorrect on that?
I don't know is the short answer to that at all. I don't know what the criteria for the reason. It's I can find out for you. Yeah, because we work with American companies that help companies.
Yeah, it's a worthy point. It's something that comes up more often than not.
What other questions do we always get on Facebook?
Well, that is the main one. I think the other one is obviously if you sell in different countries, are there different VAT rates, which of course I'm aware of. And through Claire's teaching, I'm aware of that.
That's the point about the distance selling rules.
Yes.
Once you are VAT registered somewhere else, for example in Germany, or I'm going to pick Hungary because it's got the highest rate of VAT in Europe at 27%. But you not only have to be registered in Hungary, you have to charge Hungarian VAT. And
even though you're not stocking the actual product in Hungary, you still would have to do that. You would have to still declare that.
Yeah, if your sales have gone over the Hungarian threshold of 35,000 euros or the Hungarian currency florins equivalent to it, that's the distance selling rules. The other rules you've just touched upon is the use of fulfillment centres. And I know Amazon has 5 main fulfillment centres in Europe, I think. Spain,
yes, the
Italy,
it's
Germany.
Yes, it's for us, obviously, France. UK, France, Germany, Italy and Spain.
Yeah, As soon
And that's known as the European Fulfillment Network, short EFN.
Is it because there's also the multi-country inventory?
Well, how we're told through Amazon's website is that we should only be concerned with the home country that we actually source the product from.
That is the EFN model,
Yes.
where they will where they will send your goods from a hub, for example, if you're based in the UK,
That's
and
right.
they will service your European clients
Yes.
from here. With the MCI, the multi-country
Yes.
inventory,
That's more complex.
yeah, if you put your stock in the French fulfillment centre or Germany or Italy, as soon as your stock is there, just one item, you have to VAT register. You've created a taxable supply and you have to VAT register in that country.
My question here is, though, you mentioned Hungary. Now, Hungary, as far as I'm aware, don't have an Amazon fulfillment centre. So it's quite hard to keep tabs on that, isn't it? I mean, if somebody was to buy some products in Hungary, other than checking, obviously, through your inventory files on the back room of Amazon itself, it's quite hard to actually track that back.
This Amazon sales reports give
Yes,
you
the sales report.
information,
I
yeah.
suppose you have to just be very vigilant, I suppose.
You
it's
have
the
to
only way.
manipulate, well, not manipulate the data, but you have to use the data that Amazon provide you to actually compile the VAT returns, because it's that information. You need to know where your customer is, your
Actually,
turnover in that country.
Thinking about, I mean, I have that facility open. Obviously, it's called the Global Program, Selling Program.
Okay.
Whereby if I was to say I have some sort of game or product, whatever, and somebody from, let's say, Sweden, and they were to buy that, and then Amazon we are told that Amazon will deal with it, they will pack it up, and they will send it over there and courier it over there. My question here, though, is what sort of tax would we be having to administer to the UK tax or to the Swedish tax on that instance? In other words, because it's the global program.
I'm not an Amazon seller. I have
So
to
you
say.
have to find that out.
Yeah, but
Okay.
in terms of the sales, so you're selling from the UK, say to a Swedish customer or customer anywhere in Europe, that comes under your UK VAT rules and the distance selling rules, so you can sell to that Swedish customer as long as your sales are below 35,000 euros or the Swedish krona equivalent. You have to keep an eye. This is why you use the Amazon sales reports, or we use them to know how much you're selling in each country.
Yes.
The other thing is, if you've got stock in the UK and you're selling to Sweden, but you've got different stock in France and you're selling to Sweden, you have to look at the French fulfillment centre as a separate entity, and you have to be monitoring your sales from that centre.
Yes.
Because it will have its own
Yes.
distance selling threshold. From
They
that,
have their own
yeah.
VAT rate. I understand.
No, but you've now got a centre in the UK and you've got one in France, and you need to monitor your distance sales from both entities.
Okay.
And then you might have to register in Sweden because you've exceeded the threshold from the UK, but you could be selling a different product from France to Sweden. So as long as you're below the threshold from your French sales,
I understand.
but as soon as you hit threshold in France, you can then join those sales to the Swedish VAT registration you've already got because UK sales are over.
Okay, gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Do you know what?
I
I'm
do
glad
have
you
a
understand
slide.
because my brain's just turned to mush.
So I do have a
It
slide
is
on
quite
that.
complex.
No, but
I mean,
that's-
this is-
So you know, for someone like me who found that very complicated.
Sorry.
So no. So
This is why we're doing this. Tom.
Exactly. So what service do you provide at Simply VAT that would help me then?
We can, if you're registered in the UK, we can do your UK VAT return. And you could actually do it yourself. You register with HMRC. But what we do is we help Amazon sellers make sure they're compliant in the rest of Europe. So we will get the Amazon reports. We can monitor. We'll know how you've got your own account with Amazon, how you're set up, and we'll be able to monitor the sales.
That's great. So you can keep an eye on it, and so me.
Yeah, so
Brilliant.
Stop your
Exactly. I mean, you've got enough on
Brilliant.
your plate having to.
You're
This could really, yeah, exactly. But this could really catch you out. As I was saying before, you've got some horrendous stories of
Yeah.
people being caught out?
I mean, we say people don't know what they don't know until they know it, and Amazon is a very, very impressive platform to give really, you know, people like you or me success internationally. It's absolutely brilliant, the traction and leverage it has. It's such an opportunity.
Until it becomes towards tax.
Well, just know what, you know, this is what
way?
we're saying. Know it from the start, because now as e-commerce explosion is happening, there's a lot of people who've been selling on Amazon for the last 6, 7, 8 years, really happily, really successfully, and all of a sudden they've got a letter from, say, the Spanish tax authority or the French tax authority saying, actually, we think you owe us VAT. We've gone to Amazon, we've asked them for your, you know, transactional data. Amazon have to hand it over. And all of a sudden, stories to make your toes curl, and the amount of VAT that is now being owed in France, like up to €1 million or whatever.
Oh my God! Yeah.
And
€1 million.
$1 million. Well, this is for one seller. So then you, they have actually paid the VAT in the UK. Just ignorance has been absolute bliss for the last few years. But now it's negotiating with the UK tax authority, who have a statute of limitation of 4 years, but they owe the French 7 years worth of VAT. So they're a pawn in the middle of these two governments, kind of vying for revenue. So it's you know, it's that I'm kind of stuttering here, but Amazon sellers are just coming in daily saying, you know, I went over the threshold a couple of years ago, this, that, the other, you know, what do we need to do to sort it out? Yeah. So, you know, a lot of our time is spent educating through groups like yourselves, which is brilliant, because this really fundamentally affects people's livelihoods. You
of course.
Have sweated blood to get where you are, for it all to be taken away because of the kind of rigidity of the various tax authorities.
So I think the thing that we should say is, even if you haven't done any of this, you've got to now. Don't be scared. I mean, it's scary, you know, the thought of the millions, but you know what? Just get out there, speak to a company like yourselves, and see what can be done, and get yourself sorted. It's
absolutely doable, and that's the whole point.
The good thing.
You know, it's not tax evasion. If you've been paying it in the UK, we can negotiate with the tax authorities. It's absolutely doable. Don't put your head in the sand, because then you're going to be another year down the line, you're going to have another year's worth of wrongly placed VAT to untangle. Deal with it, and you'll be able to sleep at night.
Exactly. It's funny how people don't think of this. I mean, they think about getting an accountant, they think about getting all these other bits and pieces, helping them source products, but they don't think about getting someone to sort out their VAT, because people think that they can do it themselves.
But to be fair also, though, business really used to be in a single nation more. I mean, you're a small person, wouldn't really extend their business
the world has
to
changed.
Overseas, and it has changed. The world has become smaller and more instantaneous, and therefore it's very easy for people to overlook it and push it to the side. Oh no, I'll leave it till next week, I'll deal with it then. And before you know it, you've made those sales and you've got yourself in a corner.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, people kind of switch off as soon as you mention UK VAT, let alone kind of European VAT.
UK and Germany is the same, isn't it? Remember, it's 20%.
No, Germany's 19%.
Oh, it's 19. Okay, it's dropped.
So that you know, there might be an argument in Germany to VAT register there, because you're getting an extra percent on your margins, unless they put their they put their VAT up to cope with the Greek debt.
That's scary. Oh my goodness.
So maybe I'm confusing, but is it Italy that's got the lowest?
Luxembourg. 17%. It was 15%, and it just went up at the start of the year.
Okay.
And so there's a 10% difference between Luxembourg, the lowest, and Hungary, the highest, at 27%.
Wow.
I mean, that's a big impact, especially if you're selling.
What is Greece? I mean, what were Greece? Putting it out of interest.
Were they?
I can't remember. I think it's that they're 18%, or there might be more.
Right.
Look it up quickly.
No, it's just because they're in the news at the moment with all the currencies problems they're having over there. So I just wondered out of interest, really. Is there anything else? I mean, obviously one has to be organised, and they have to get this in check from the word go. Would your everyday accountant know how to deal with the tax issues overseas, or is it very much a specialist service that you have to actually go and get? What I mean by that is that obviously someone like yourself, you could keep tabs on that at a regular basis, which it sounds as if you've got a sizable business, you need to have that on hand. But let's say the person that's new to the business, they will probably come to me and say, well, Nicole, look, I can't afford to have somebody who specialises in taxation. So my question to you is there any way around it whereby they can just use an accountant and then transfer perhaps their businesses over to yourselves or another company like yourselves? Or should they start from the beginning with a tax expert?
I really think it depends on the accountant and the level of knowledge. It's a
That's
bit,
what I was trying to
I
assess,
wouldn't
really.
rely on it.
It's just that I have an accountant, and you know they don't really know all the ins and outs of European tax laws and things like that. So this is why someone like yourself, you're a goldmine to me, Claire.
I know, and we work with we work side by side with accountants, and they tend to do a lot of outsourcing to us. So we complement what they do, and they use us, you know, to be able to back up that knowledge. So, you know, if we can sit next to your accountant, they can do, you know, your legal stuff wherever you're based, and then we can do the international VAT. So it's we complement them, and we back up their kind of base knowledge. But to be honest, we hear horror stories day in, day out of not only kind of accountants not really.
So someone who's already actually VAT, perhaps in their own, have already that in place in their home country, but still, as you've said from your story, but still have the endless problems of all the other networks within the other different union, in the European Union itself.
Yeah, there's a distinct lack of knowledge, but it's becoming.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I'll be honest, even when I first started out, it was the last thing on my mind. I mean, you know, it's not something I sort of like thought, oh, I must, you know, get somebody to be an expert.
But that figure of however much it is at that threshold seems like so far away when you first start out. But then, as we were saying, it doesn't take long. You get the right product and it just shoots out.
Through,
and all of a sudden, you've just tipped over the edge, haven't you?
Yeah.
And we're talking net here. You know, obviously, if you did a gross of €1 million, as you said, that's quite easy to do.
And, you know, with the euro exchange rate as it is at the moment, you're only looking at about £25,000. And with what's going on in Greece, you know, they're talking about the euro becoming weaker. You know, it starts to become... all the European countries, apart from those four I mentioned, have that low threshold.
Claire, I have a question for you, and it's something that I actually came across in my early days, and also I'm sure many people now do as well. For example, a store like Argos, when you buy products, they don't actually incorporate the VAT costs in the products. And therefore, when you pay for the product, you're getting a great deal because it's, you know, it's low in comparison to the cost of what that product is selling on Amazon. My question here is, how do I actually ask for the VAT? I know that, when I started this, I didn't know, but I do know now that you have to actually write to their head office to ask for a VAT invoice. Reasons, can you just stipulate in a grander term why people should ensure that they should do this?
If you are going to become VAT registered, you're going to be able to reclaim the VAT on those purchases that you made. So it's really important that you have a VAT receipt, because when you put in a VAT return, you need to back up with the purchase.
I understand that, but what my question is here is that often people are nervous in approaching somebody like Argos and saying, look, I need a VAT receipt. It is law that they can ask that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. As a retailer, they don't have to provide one automatically, but if the customer asks for a VAT receipt, they have to provide it to you. Okay,
fine. That's something I wanted to just get off my chest, because it was something that used to worry me no end in the beginning.
No, you're absolutely entitled to ask.
Okay, great.
Okay, one of the things that we've been chatting about in the past is, and I hear constantly, is that people try to stay below that threshold. And in my mind, and I'm thinking that's quite, you're harming your own business in a way when you've got the potential of making so much money, but you're so scared of that VAT that you're limiting how much money that you're making. So what do you say to people?
Those people, yes. That's a good question, Tally.
Yeah, I think we covered it briefly before. Just from the beginning, always put 20% on your product and see if you've still got margin
within your margin. That's right.
So you're not scuppered by the VAT ceiling that stops you then pushing through them and making more than £82,000 a year. There's no reason to be scared of VAT. There are obviously experts like ourselves around. It really shouldn't be a barrier.
Yeah, and you were saying that there will be that little transition period, and then everything's fine, isn't there?
To be honest, if you've always put the 20% in from the start, almost like an invisible, you write that off, put it into your, if you like, your savings, so you always know your margins. There won't be any.
That's lovely.
Pains.
That's a great idea. That's a really good tip there.
Yeah, because what happens? People haven't accounted for it. They hit the threshold. All of a sudden, they're not competitive. Yeah. They haven't researched the local market, and like we say, they either have to hover below, or if they've had to then VAT register, if they have hit, gone through threshold, have to VAT register straight away. Your income drops automatically.
So, am I right in understanding that if, say, people haven't registered and they've now reached the threshold of 82k, if they were to take action from that point onwards, it wouldn't further complicate issues?
No. You absolutely, as soon as you hit threshold, you should VAT register.
Because that's generally what I think people really do go on that proviso. They sort of like wait until that day when they're fast approaching it, and then decide, yes, I want to take the action then. Would they be right in doing that, or as you said before, really they should do it from the beginning? And there's no question about that.
They can VAT register at the point that they hit the threshold. What I'm trying to say is, if they account mentally or in their figures, on their their sums. So you've got your cost price.
Return on investment.
Add 20%, add 20% VAT, even though you might not pay it for a year because you won't have to pay it because you're not VAT registered. But always put it into your calculations and then see how much margin you've got left, and it's a viable.
Does that also include with voucher schemes as well? So in other words, if you were to incorporate within your return the voucher discount, that would come into the tax as well, would it?
Yeah, it's the full price.
The full price, okay.
No, I think that's an excellent top tip for everyone. That just factor it in right at the beginning, and then when you do transition, it's not going to hurt you. You're not even going to notice then, are you?
Yeah, and if you account for it all the time, and you could look at it as savings if you like. It is. Actually put that 20% somewhere. Yeah. And while you're under threshold, you've got a nice little pot at the end of the year. That's
a brilliant idea.
Well, that's why I like cashback.
Another thing is that I was just wondering, for our worldwide friends out there, are the rules the same for everyone around the world? No.
Now we're going into a heavy subject, are we?
It's not too heavy. We're trying to obviously simplify VAT for people so they don't run a mile. For example, if you're based in America and you're selling into Europe, you don't. It depends on who the importer of record is, and usually it's the customer. So, for example, I bought a pair of jeans from America. I thought they were a great price. They turn up with a tax bill of another $40, which kind of negated the reason I wanted to buy them from there in the first place.
Yeah.
And this is...
Never mind the shipping costs.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the kind of bad customer experience that comes along with this international trade. Mm-hmm. But if you're, for example, an American Amazon seller, you can register in Europe, and a lot of companies or people like to register in the UK, obviously, because of the common language. So you VAT register in the UK. As you're bringing your goods in, you're paying import VAT. You can now deduct this from your VAT return and offset it against VAT that you put on the sales that you make to your customers. So once you're registered in one country,
which would be the home base for most Americans, I would imagine, will be here or Germany. And Germany is only that 1% less, isn't it?
1%, on the VAT. So you've got your first port of entry, and now the distance selling rules apply to you as a business, and what we've just spoken about. So from the UK, you can start selling using the EFN network.
Yes.
And start selling to French, Germany, across Europe.
That's right.
And you're accounting for your sales. You're keeping an eye on, see if your sales are going to exceed the distance selling threshold. So once you go over the most common 35,000 euros or equivalent, you're going to have to VAT register, say in France, or not France because it's 100,000, but in Belgium or Czech Republic.
Okay, I think that's where a lot of people tumble, because they just assume because you are actually sending from the home base of the UK and your product is stocked here, that you are only going to get the tax bill from the VAT charged here in the UK. And I think that's where people get confused.
Yeah.
You've clarified that now, because obviously even though still that you are doing that, when you reach that threshold in an individual country, wherever it is in Europe or the world, you have to address that tax.
Yes.
Okay.
But if you are then registered in France or Holland or wherever, you don't, the VAT on that sale, you don't still account for it in the UK. Once you're over the threshold, you're then accounting for it there. You're not paying VAT twice on the same sale.
Yes, okay, yeah, I'll get that. Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, to our American friends, to do take care of your taxes over here is far easier than perhaps in the States.
Yeah, you know, but
once
our
you've
company's called simply VAT, but there's 28 countries in Europe, and I understand there's something like 12,000 taxable jurisdictions in America.
Gosh,
so,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but, European
Wow.
VAT is probably child's play.
Well, that's nice for people who want to sell over here. It's not as daunting as perhaps they first would have thought.
No.
Excellent. Okay, well that's fantastic. So what I'd like to do is say thank you very much to Claire for coming and talking to us.
that.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
And what I want to do is just finish off with what would be your top 5 tips for our listeners today?
Okay, in the world of VAT, I think plan ahead, really put that 20% into your calculation straight away. Also, keep an eye on the thresholds in the different European countries.
Will you actually produce us some sort of form of showing us the percentage for each country? Is that?
Yeah, you can get that information from our website, and we can email it to people, so
Great.
we can let people know the thresholds when they change, the VAT rates, so people can
Fantastic.
plan ahead. The other thing to do is, if you are looking at whether you are over threshold, always put shipping into the mix, because VAT goes on the shipping as well as the
and there's taxes to be paid on that as well, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. So that those come into your calculations
Yep.
to see if you exceeded threshold. The other thing is invoice compliance. Some countries, like we talked about in the UK, a retailer doesn't have to produce an invoice for a consumer unless they're asked. But other countries, there are obligatory invoicing, which needs to happen. For example, in France or Germany, you have to produce an invoice, and as I understand it, Amazon don't do that. So think about how your processes are going to work to be able to get that invoice to your customers.
Okay.
And the last big top tip, don't let VAT be a barrier to your global domination plans.
Excellent. I think that to me is the key. As I was saying, I can
take action, isn't it?
Yeah, but I've seen so many threads on Facebook of people just saying, I'm staying below, just below. And to me, that sounds ridiculous, really. You don't start a business to limit the amount of money that you can
expansion.
make. And I think your other what we were talking about earlier, which I think is a fantastic top tip, is to always factor in your margins from day one.
Yep.
And then it will never scare you. It's always there. And also, like you were saying, you have that little pot of money that you've been collecting all along. And then when you hit that threshold, it's no big deal.
Yeah, I mean, that pot of money you would have saved when you're not VAT registered doesn't go to the tax office. That's your saving.
And that's a lovely way.
But you're already in the mindset of accounting for the 20% is the point.
And it is the mindset, I think, that is scaring everyone. Everybody has got themselves, they hear the word VAT, tax man, all of this kind of stuff, and your blood goes cold. And the thing is, there's absolutely no reason for that. And if you put it into your planning from day one, it's absolutely fine. There is no problem.
Is there any horror stories that you want to share with us, or?
I've told you the ones about people that, primarily Amazon sellers.
I'm talking primarily, I mean, not even Amazon sellers, maybe some people on other platforms perhaps that you've had dealings with, maybe eBay or someone like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people now that have used FBA or been selling online and now, are having to account for the VAT. And as I said, there starts to become, even though for the lack of information or whatever out there, that they're a pawn in the European tax authorities kind of game of who accounts for what. If the French didn't have the use of the money, they want to charge interest. The UK VAT tax office won't pay back over 4 years. It's a big kind of bureaucratic mess to sort out. So please plan ahead. Just get as much information as you can. And my primary thing is, if you're not doing it or you don't know what you don't know, you have that niggling feeling that does keep you awake at night. So
you're always looking over your shoulder then, aren't you?
You don't have to live like that. For online sellers, for online retailers, VAT is, the principles are pretty simple. Just know how much you're selling.
In a way, look at it like a money cashback. We use that I use it certainly for arbitrage. I use the money back coupons and money back sites. It's another way of using it.
Yeah.
Just using it by the VAT. I think that's why that's what I do. So.
Yeah.
And as you say, I incorporate it. I actually go for very large margins. It's one of the reasons why I have to, because of the taxes.
Yeah. Get your business model right, even if you don't consider yourself a business. Act like a business.
Excellent.
You're doing
advice.
it for profit.
Yeah, that's great advice. Well, thank you very much, Claire.
Thank you, Claire.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
So we'll have a link to Claire's website on our website and also below this recording. So please do visit Claire. They're extremely helpful. They're not how you imagine. She's lovely. You've heard her.
Absolutely.
So don't be scared.
Yeah.
And you never know.
Very approachable.
You might see her in the States soon. So, fingers crossed.
You never know.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Nicole. And we will see you again very soon at our next As Entrepreneurs recording. So thank you very much.
Thanks,
Take care.
Kelly.
Bye.
Bye.